Okay, in this next video, we're going to briefly talk about environments and what the philosophy with Architect is. Um, we're back here in the Environments tab, and remember you can see what environment you're currently in from here, and you can select between environments if you want to switch. The switches are very fast. And over here in environments, you can always click on an environment and you can change the color, right? If you want it to, I don't know, be purple or gray, you could do that. And there's this concept of environment role. Think of in Architect, you have the concept of code promoting and content syncing down. So what this means is that we consider code to be lifecycle functions, of course, context actions, but also models, because models represent a contract. And if your API or anybody wanting to interact with this, if this ever changes, this to us is a contractual break. And so these kind of breaking changes should get tested and promoted up from lower environments up to higher environments. The other thing that this means is that in general, entries created in lower environments don't flow up because we consider those entries created here to be testing entries, and the authoritative entries would get created in these content authority environments. So usually this is the active working system, and people are creating entries in here. And then those entries get synced down to lower environments so that you can play around with them and have a good testing ground here. So that's the general idea. Um, there's a there's a learning section in here where you can see more about how content flow works. And then you can see, because we have this chain, you have the ability to hit compare. And so because demo is under development, when you hit compare, you can see demo promotes to development. If we were going to switch to development, we would see development can promote code up to test, but it syncs content down to its lower environments, which is demo. And if you have more than one, you'll get a drop down in here. Coming back to demo, I'll show you quickly what the promote looks like. So when you click this, what you will see is just the code items in these sections in here. And again, it says entries are hidden because content flows down. And so all of these entries for products that we created in here, those are considered to be test entries. They don't go up to development. But the thing that it does consider in a lower environment that is eligible to go up would be code. You can see in here, we created a cart model in our demo environment. You saw that from our prior videos, and you can see it exists, and there you can see it will be created in the development environment. Same thing for line item, loyalty level, and market. And then you can see we actually had some things that were the same, but now the metadata has changed, and we're going to make development like demo. And then there are certain things that actually exist in development that don't exist here. You can see ice cream, ingredients, new model, and page, and those would get nuked to make these two environments the same. And you can actually uncheck these, right? If you don't want something, it doesn't have to go, but this is trying to give you a visual of what would get synced up. You can then see the context providers we created. Remember, we created localization, market, and person loyalty level. that would get created in development, but development had customer tier and region, and those would get deleted out to keep them in sync. And finally, you can see from our prior videos, these were our lifecycle functions that we created in this demo environment. And those guys will also get pushed up to development, as well as our context action for translating the fields, that tool that you guys saw. Yeah. Generally speaking, because it's a coding system, what you can do is you could come into demo and then you could clone this environment. And this is generally, let's say we wanted to change in demo, let's say we wanted to play around safely with this calculate cart total function. So generally what you do is you go to your environment here and you say, let me make a clone of this environment. By default, it'll just make a copy. And then you clone it. Now you can see we have this new environment. It actually automatically switches you to this environment. And if you hit compare now, you can see there are no differences. These are clones of each other. But let's say now I want to play around with something and I come into my demo environment. I come back to my cart lifecycle function here. Let's say I open it up. And remember, this thing was rounding up to the nearest cent. Let's say I just want to modify the function to round up to the nearest dollar when calculating the cart total. I can hit enter here. I can talk to my AI in a conversational way until I get it to tell me that the function is doing this correctly. And it basically said, listen, I've updated the function to round up to the nearest dollar instead of rounding up to the nearest cent, which is what it was before. And it's telling you what the examples are now. And let's say I hit save. All right. What I can do now is I can test this, right? I could come to my person cart like this, and I can say, hey, let's go look at the cart, and aha, now it's rounded up to 620 because before we had this by cents. But more importantly, because I'm in a clone, I've quickly verified this. I can now click compare, and I can click promote to, and it'll say the only thing that really changed here is your calculate cart total function. And I can click on this. And it actually gives you a diff, and it gives you a plain English explanation here. It says the function still calculates the cart total, but the rounding behavior has changed. Previously, the total was rounded to the nearest cent, but now it rounds up to the nearest whole dollar amount like this, right? And you can actually see down here, it put a nice comment for you if you're a coder, but if you're not a coder, you can simply read the summary and trust the AI, because remember, the newest language is English for coding, and this is what we want to use if you're not a technical person, but now you're empowered to write functions yourself in plain English. And then you can promote this up to the demo environment, and this is how code gets tested very quickly in small little clones, right? And when you promote this up, like this, and then you can promote and actually delete the clone. And now this demo environment has the changes that you cloned and tested down here, and you didn't affect this environment because you did all your testing down in here. I hope that makes sense. I hope it explains how the environments work in this system, and talk to you guys next time.